Hello everyone, I'm Instructor Jerry Roberts and this is PowerShell Scripting. In this lesson, we're going to learn about piping commands and piping output to a file. We learned a little bit about piping in our help lesson, and in this lesson we're going to go further into it. First of all, piping commands. There are a couple of very useful commands that you can pipe that you really should know. Where object, format list or FL, format table or FT, and measure object. Where object. This is the first command that will be very useful for you. It allows you to specify certain conditions that must be met for the command in order to run. For example, here we have a get service where object property status equals stopped. What this will do is it'll get the current services, then ventil them based on their status. So this one says status equals stopped. So it's going to look for that where it says stopped, and it's going to show all the ones that are stopped. Now, one thing to notice is the -EQ. Usually you want to do -EQ instead of an equal sign when you're trying to say that something equals something in a PowerShell command. Format list is the next useful command. Format-list allows you to format the output in a list. So for example, here we have get WMI object Win32_processor, and we have formatted the list using FL. You can use format-list, or you can type in just FL. Either works in PowerShell. Now this particular command is going to look for some processor information, then display it as a list. So as you can see here in the picture, we have different pieces of information like caption, which is usually just some basic information about the item, device ID, manufacturer, and so forth. And because it's in a list, it's a little bit easier to read than it would be in a table. Now, there are other parameters that can be used with format list to further organize the list. However, that's beyond what we're going to be doing here, but that is something to be aware of that you can look for later. Another formatting option is format table or FT. Format-table allows you to format your output as a table. For example, here we have get, process, and FT. You can see here it is now a table, and each table has a heading here. So like handles, NPM, PM, WS, all that has its own column. And each row is a different piece of information. Now, format table also has some additional parameters for further organization that you can use. Again, those are beyond this video, but that is something you could look into. Another thing with format table, just like format list, if you do FT instead of the full format-table, that will also work. Measure object is another very useful command. This command allows you to find metadata or certain pieces of information about an object, such as a file. For example, here we have a command get child item path, the path of the file, then measure object. So what this actually did was it went through and it found the C Windows System 32 directory. And then it got all the child items, which are all the items that are actually just listed in that folder. Then provided information. Here it's very simple. It just gave you a count of how many items. In this particular folder on this particular computer, it looks like there's 4,490 items. You'll also see some other items like average, sun, maximum, minimum, property, stuff like that that you can get. There are additional parameters, just like with format table and format list, that you can use to find more information. One of the very useful ones is -word. -word gets word count. So that's pretty cool if you're working on a file like a Word file or another type of document. You can actually get word count without opening the file. Another item that you're going to want to know with piping is how to pipe output to a file. In addition to actually being able to pipe in commands, you can actually pipe your output to a file. This is very useful for commands that get information such as the CIM instance item. This one shows Win32 BIOS, which is BIOS information. What you can do is you can run the commands as a script and create files so you have all sorts of pieces of information about what you need to get. To pipe output to a file, use the greater than symbol twice at the end of your command and specify the file to pipe it to. For example, here, we have our 32 BIOS, and we want to actually put that to a text document so we have it for later. And what we've done is we've done our command, so get -cim instance space -class name space win32_BIOS space, and then our pipe, then space FL. So we're actually going to format it as a list before we put it in the document. And then we did our 2 greater than symbols, bios.txt. That's the name of the file we're sending it to. There you can actually put an entire file path. The file does not have to be created. It will create one for you if you have not created it yet. And once that command runs, it's going to pipe that BIOS information into a text file called BIOS. And you can see there in the screenshot that it piped the output into a file for you. Now, post-assessment question time. If you wanted to pipe output to a file called random.txt, which is a text file, which command would you use? Would you pipe random.txt? Would you greater than random.txt? Would you do 2 greater thans than random.txt? Or would you do a less than random.txt? Now, you may pause for a moment if you want, and we'll get the answer in a second. The answer is C. You'd use the double greater than random.txt. Remember, you have to use the double greater than when piping output to a file.